kids can enter the portal, coaches can move around, different things like that. How difficult is it for those conversations in households now when you go to recruit a kid?
It's a simple message. If you want to win a national championship, if you want to develop yourself to be on this stage and then be prepared to be a major league player someday, that's all we're trying to do. We don't want baseball players that fit their life with baseball in it. We want guys that build their life around baseball. And if you do that, you can be successful in our
want
place.
high schoolers with helium. It's one of my favorite words on draft night. Helium, guys that stock is rising. Melanie Newman, I want to throw it back over to you because Carlos and Jim, they're always talking about guys who have helium that could surprise us in the first round, right?
Well, and that's the whole point. It's helium because they're not full of hot air. These are guys that are going on the rise, and it's not really going to stop. Carlos, who are you tying that balloon string to on this one?
Yeah, I think a name that's popped up over the last 2 weeks or so is Ty Floyd. You mentioned him earlier, Jim. He had a phenomenal College World Series, and I think another separator with Ty is just the fastball shape. It's excellent carry and ride on this pitch. I think he used it around 90% last year. It was so good he could use it that much and still be effective. This year the secondaries have improved as well, and I just think the absence of college pitchers once our top four are gone, a lot of teams really want college arms in this draft, and if they're going to look to find them, I think Ty Floyd is going to be one of the best guys available.
And I also don't think it's impossible. He jumps up to number 4 in line. He even goes ahead of Hurston Waldrop. That's possible. I agree with you. You stole my guy, but I'm going to stick with a guy named Ty. I'm going with Ty Pete. We saw him at the draft combine. He's got some of the best bat speed, quickest hands in the high school class. He's athletic, still developing. You can see there's room for physical growth. We're talking about a guy who could have plus raw power, plus speed, plus arm strength, stick at shortstop, maybe third base if he's not a shortstop. And there's so many high school shortstops in this draft. There's 8, 9 who could go in the first round, and I keep hearing his name moving up and up and up every time I talk to people.
Yeah.
It's all in the name for this one, guys. The pair of ties. Greg, we know you got someone special hanging out with you down below.
Oh, yeah. It takes a lot to get Jay Johnson off our set. We only have room for 4 seats. So, first ballot Hall of Famer Ken Griffey Jr. Good to see you, my friend. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
This event is a big one. Seattle on display, and you're everywhere.
Yeah, I've been everywhere. But it's been fun. I can tell you that when I got drafted, I did it from my couch at home.
George
like
Kenneth Griffey Jr. Hey, so take us back to '87 with that draft.
I woke up to a bunch of people at my house.
Look at you. Look at you.
Did you know you were going to be one?
Yeah, I knew the night before.
You knew the night before?
Yeah.
All right.
Who was the GM at the time of the Mariners?
Woody Woodward.
That was Woody Woodward. So, Dan, you were drafting people back then, right?
I was with the Orioles, so I was like working my way up to a position to where I actually could make decisions. But I got to see him play. It was like I left the ballpark with a guy named Tom Giordano, who was our scouting director, an older scout. I said to him, "Do they all look like that?" He goes, "Oh no, you won't find anybody that ever looks like that again."
I tell you what, he came after the draft, and you know how the first pick comes and works out with the big league club. So it's probably 2 days, 3 days. He'd never been to Seattle. Flies out, comes out to work out. He walks out, and we've seen his dad, right? Playing. We're like, oh, yeah, Ken Griffey Sr. He slaps the ball the other way. He got a little thunder every now and then. Junior comes in. He's legit 6'4", right? And he's got this big old Michael Jackson afro. So now he's
saw the
6'8".
pro. It wasn't that big.
And he starts taking BP, Dan, and he's hitting balls in the seats. And I remember standing there with Alvin going, he's our best player right now. He's 17. It was unbelievable. You remember that day?
Yeah, I was, Bobby Tolan was there. I was slapping the ball the other way. And he said, "Can you pull the ball?" I was like, "Yeah." And then I just started pulling the ball and hitting him in the upper deck.
You're the first #1 overall pick to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, Ken. You could write it. You could have a doctorate class on how to deal with the pressure of being one of one. Someone tonight will have that pressure. What would your advice be?
To enjoy it. Because next year somebody else is going to be a 1-1. So you have a whole year to enjoy it. I mean, it's the greatest honor of being a baseball player is to be that first pick. That was the one thing that my major decision, because I could have said no and gone somewhere else. I could have made more money somewhere else. But to have my name to be 1-1, and at that time the money wasn't so much of a, that big of a difference. I think it was like $5-6 grand. And I wanted to be #1.
Worked out for you.
Yeah, it worked.
Not bad.
It did.
Not
Ken,
bad.
thank you so much for stopping by. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hall of Famer Ken
Thank you, man.
Griffey Jr. As we're getting so close to draft time, we are getting behind the scenes. We've got so many young, talented players here with their family and friends in our draft lounge.
Lineup this afternoon against the Tigers left.
And then in an attempt to do that, John Schneider has...
Guerrero hitting 2-3. And underway with a swing and a foul off. It is Skubal more than anybody else in the line. A few extra times. Got 18. And number 19 is going to drop in for a... Merrifield's short game is very... Blue Jays, like everybody, kind of scattering before they start up again in the second half against Arizona.
Inside now.
A.J. Hinch was joking about Eric Haas. Swing and a miss, and Skubal gets Bichette 5 on Friday night. Just a little actually raining this morning, 9-10 o'clock. 1-1. The Derby's tomorrow night, so they get a long flight, obviously. Up high, 2-2 on Guerrero.
It's here.
Full count. They do. And it's ball 4 to Guerrero. And he'll take it. 1-1. Major part of this Tigers' future. Swing and a miss again. 1-2. And he strikes out Chapman for the second out. Alejandro Kirk is catching. And hitting. And the 1-0 to Jansen. Bouncer slowly hit to third, and McKinstry will just grab. Wilson, carry Carpenter. That's the strength of the Tiger line
Today in Detroit.
There's one of the lefties, and Zach McKinstry. You know, if you take a step back, and he's a really interesting
Ways.
Side, Chapman is backpedaling, and then
Kevin Biggio gets a second start.
Tarek Skubal, Riley Green, Matt Manning. You know, quietly optimistic, I think, about what the second half of the season.
Is it a rise?
Yeah. Welcome to being a big league manager. Bassett, Torkelson went 1 for 4 yesterday, an RBI double in the first. He's driven in 2 of the runs. I think the Blue Jays, the 0-2. Sometimes, you know, when the Blue Jays are in Baltimore, somewhere like that.
After the game yesterday.
The wall on a bounce. Second with a double for the third game in a row. He's 1 for 8 for the Tigers so far in this series. And that was the last run scored the first inning yesterday.
There is such a
And Bassett gets Carpenter to. I offered. We talked about dogs. Yeah. His got to find a dog boarder. Now he has a dog boarder.
Yes, on national television.
Yeah. Well, as long as I don't know the dog's name, but as long as the placement for Kevin Gausman. One previous All-Star game, that was 2 years ago, but he did. A swing and a miss by Alejandro Kirk, 1 down.
It's here for the 05 All-Star game here at Comerica Park, Dan, and I think that's one open up.
Foul down the right field line. 1 in is the BP pitcher for Vladdy in the Derby.
And he's only going to continue to improve.
All of San Francisco. There's kind of been a changing of the guard among great closers as Espinal's. So now the first left-handed.
Pull off the baseball a hair.
And a ground ball to the right side, gobbled up by Andy.
Sure, John Schneider and Pete Walker are glad to deal with this issue this season in his rebound year. Yusei Kikuchi at the back end has been just fine off the bullpen. Now the other problem is if you're swinging the bats a little bit more.
On Friday night, that is good news, obviously, and well, it remains to be seen. The Blue Jays didn't make if they maybe push Gausman or Bassett back a day, you know, maybe field a base hit to get things going for the turn at first, but now gets back to the bag. He's hitting .224 on the season. He's hit, and Baez can third. He will be in the Hall of Fame. Baez in to score, Badu and just in on the corners. And Ibanez for what it's worth.
He doesn't run that sinker in on the righty here.
Any idea what's coming? That's in the strike zone, but of course he makes low ground ball to third. Chapman on to first. In the dirt, blocked by Kirk, so the runners
About halfway, a couple steps deeper than Espinal.
Yeah. Chapman backing.
Probably going to be a jam shot type thing where it's not hit as hard.
Looked like he checked the. And he got him up above the zone. Looked like big early spot in this third round pick in the 2000.
That's a long time ago.
A pop up for Chapman.